Susan showed herself first.
Well, it's always about Susan. Oh, look at me.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Narragansett Regional School District School Committee to order. If you would all please rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a reminder, this meeting is being live streamed and recorded and is available to watch on YouTube. Getting into our regular business, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of January 15th, 2026 as written. Motion by Sean. Second. Second by Heather. Any questions or comments on those meeting minutes? No. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, and I say yes. And let's record that Danielle joined us at 5:31. No worries. Next, I would entertain a motion to accept the bills and payroll warrants as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Sean. Second. Second by Heather. Any questions or comments about those? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, and I say yes, so that is unanimous. And now, we have our student rep here to present to us tonight. In the middle of midterms, I'm assuming, so we appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us.
The attendance goal of 100% for the middle school was not quite met for quarter two, but they did achieve a 94.3%, which is impressive after a low December rate due to sickness. Grade 7 had the highest attendance rate of 95.15%, with grade 5 having a 94.91% and grade 6 having a 94.21%. Grade 7 has won the ice cream sundae party. Middle and high school students have just taken STAR reading and math assessments for the middle of the year. Their results will be coming home shortly. Quarter two is just ending report cards we have. Upcoming events for the middle school. Student Council will be selling candy grams for the week of 2/9 to 2/13. The Scholastic Book Fair will be taking place 2/2 to 2/6 for middle and high school. Gansett gear is on sale until 2/10, and there's a grade 5 Valentine movie matinee. For the high school, the Project 351 representatives for this year, S.J. Fliss and Juliana Hensley, recently began their year-long journey of service and gratitude for their communities, and S.J. attended the launch day in Boston. He spent the day hearing about how past ambassadors have been impacted by the service, and he was able to begin helping that afternoon. This past weekend, the theater crew put on The Play That Goes Wrong, a play in a play, where the actors keep messing everything up as they try to perform a murder mystery. Congratulations to the wonderful actors. There's an upcoming Spirit Day tomorrow, Blackout Day, for Senior Night for basketball, and a Spirit Week next week, February 2nd through the 6th, leading up to our Winter Carnival, which will be a glow skate night on February 7th, 2026. Open skate from 6 to 8 p.m., and middle school, high school from 8 to 9 p.m. Winter sports are almost over, with basketball games tomorrow, hockey games upcoming soon, and track meet leagues this weekend. Finally, we had our third snow day this past Monday. Dr. Kazvan and a few talented Warrior leadership students made a wonderful video to alert everybody school was canceled.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Any questions from anyone? Well, thank you so much for making the time to come and sit with us tonight. We always appreciate it. Good luck on your test tomorrow.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
And now I would like to invite our Templeton Elementary School friends, if you'd like to come and join us at the table, we'll get you on the camera. Favorite thing to do is. Bless you. And then we'll just ask you to introduce yourselves, even though everyone knows who you are. Just for, the official record.
Hi everyone, Marcy Rasmussen, principal at Templeton Elementary School. Happy to be here tonight.
And Janet Smith, assistant principal at
So we'd love to share some updates and things that we have had going on at TES, some highlights and where we're at with our school improvement plan. So our first couple of slides are just highlighting a lot of our fun community events that we've had going on this year so far. PTO has put on several great events, one of which being the Halloween dance, which if you've ever been to it, is probably the highlight of these children's lives. The parents maybe not so much, but it is for sure a hot time. We also have our newly appointed student council representatives who've been working hard, including our new mascot, which you are aware of. We had our holiday door decorating contest. We had multiple spirit days, our holiday plays and performances that are put on by Mrs. Wendy McKeon are always well received events and definitely full of excitement there too. We're highlighting our character virtues monthly with our Kids of Character nominations. So the kids that earn that award for each month get to come to the auditorium and receive their special certificate as well. We had our Butch Elwell turkey trot for our 3rd and 4th graders. Which is a great tradition. The kids really truly enjoy taking part in that. We had our TES Literacy Night where they got to travel around the world. It was hosted by our Title I teachers and Janet and I. So each station that they were able to go to, they were able to learn more about different countries, but also use their literacy skills at the same time. We had Beth Cullen who won the district door decorating contest there with her brand new trophy. She's very thrilled. And then our 4th graders here have also been putting on yearly the food drive. And so they were able to, we filled up, I believe, 4 vehicles to bring food to the Templeton Food Pantry. And so they were very grateful for that support as well. We really have kind of taken pride in being a dysfunctional family, I guess you would say. I think when you say that your school is a family, people are like, do you really want it to be a family? But I think, we've just kind of created an environment where we are enjoying having fun with each other, but also, holding the highest expectations for our students. And it's nice to be able to get together as a community and do just fun things and wear the same shirt. And, the kids love it and they enjoy seeing us as a collective too. So it's been really nice to see. And then we have our awesome book vending machine, which has been a huge hit this year. We actually just got a ton of new hardcover donations that the kids are really excited about. So I'm going to put those in the vending machine. So they look forward to being chosen as somebody who goes above and beyond for either their school or their community or their class. So that's been fun to watch too. So a part of our SIP, we're focusing on our social emotional learning as well as academics. So SWIS, as you may or may not know, is a system that we use to track behaviors as well as how they are handled within the school. And Janet's doing a great job this year with sharing those with parents too, so that everybody is aware of what's happening on a day-to-day basis. So we are really continuing to focus on positive behavior supports, utilizing restorative practices, and proactively this year we have introduced a Tier 1 SEL curriculum called Mind Up, which our school adjustment counselors are teaching daily. And so we are thrilled to be able to look at the data and start to see those pieces being connected and the referrals decreasing. So even just looking at our year-to-year comparisons from 2023 to 2024, and I only did this up through January 6th of that school year, just so we were looking at the same data. We had 457 behavior referrals. 2024 to 2025, we had 385 up to this point. So that is, 72 fewer referrals, which overall is, almost 16% decrease from last year to this year. So, it's nice to see. And again, why is that important? Because, fewer referrals means that teachers have more time to instruct. And so if they are not having to deal with behaviors or anything in the classroom that is prohibiting students from accessing that time, then, we have kids that are learning more. And the overall improved school climate and sense of belonging, the kids know what the expectations are, and they're starting to learn, that if something goes wrong, that they have to fix it. And so they're a part of making the community better.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
For 2025 to 2026, are you seeing these trends continue or still too soon to discuss that?
So, and you know what, I just realized that those are the wrong years. It should have been 2024, 25, and I was like, wait, yes, that is it. I put the wrong date, so that's me. That is comparing last year to this year. Thank you for pointing that out. So yes, we are. We have seen some, more severe behaviors, but it's with a very small portion of the student population. And so the overall negative behaviors that we're seeing are definitely decreasing. That is the 16% from last year to this year. So thank you for pointing that out. And the data also supports that obviously we want to continue investing in the things that we're doing. And so, having our tier 1 curriculum being taught to every student in the classroom, and every student is able to think about, how do I manage my emotions? How do I regulate my body? What are things that I can do when I'm stressed out? All of those things are just helping our kids feel more confident in their own skills too. So getting into our academic achievement, we are right now testing for MOY. So our STAR and DIMPLES data will be out hopefully next week. But just looking at our fall scores here, if we take a look at our overall achievement in STAR reading, we had 65.4% of students who at the beginning of the year were scoring at or above the benchmark, which is awesome. And then for math, we had 58.6% who were meeting that at the beginning of the year benchmark proficiency level. If you look at growth, which this was like one of those proud mama moments where you see the data and you're like, wow, it's something to be proud at. This is the highest student growth percentage that I've seen since I've been here. To have almost 80% of students make growth is something that I am truly proud of. And not just, typical growth, but we had 51% of kids that made high growth. So very proud of, where we're at. And of course, there's room for growth. And we know that as a school, but we're working hard on getting there. And for STAR Math, just a little bit lower, but still one of the, the highest growth scores that I've seen for TES, and at 74% of our students who are making typical growth. Our last year MCAS data, which has also shown some pretty fantastic data in thinking about TES and where TES has been since, again, on this accountability percentile from 2022, we have never got the substantial progress towards targets. And so to put ourselves into that category is just, again, another piece of that data that's showing that we are trending in the right direction. And, 56% of progress towards improvement target, it's still not great numbers in my eyes, right? I want for us to do better, but the fact that we have made that jump from even 40% last year is something that I am very proud at. And looking at the accountability percentile too, the highest accountability percentile that we've seen. So I'm excited to see what this year's data looks like too. Our professional development has been focusing on writing instruction for the first half of the school year. So this is just some work samples of our student writing and small group writing conferences in action. Teachers were participating in professional development that allowed for them to utilize writer's workshop and really focus on small group instruction to target the skills that students needed, while also learning instructional practices to help all writers be successful. So students have also been working on, with their teachers, identifying areas that they feel like they are successful at and areas that they want to grow at. And that's kind of a part of their goal setting routine that a lot of our teachers are using. We also worked this year on changing our report card a little bit in order to better align with the standards-based curriculum, which for some of our families was a little bit difficult, but I think we tried to really proactively put out there information for parents to explain to them. It's hard as a parent to, not see that top score in every trimester, but the way that our standards, from DESE are reported out are based on end of year goals, right? So if students are getting 3s at the beginning of the year or getting meeting at the beginning of the year, that means that they've already mastered a standard that hasn't even been taught within the classroom. So trying to just get our community to understand that it's okay to not have M's in first trimester, while getting them to understand that it is standards are meant to be year long in a lot of aspects. So again, we're looking at growth. And then we had 92% of our families attend conferences in December, in the middle of the winter with colds and flu and everything. So the teachers were really happy to see that as well. And so I wanted to just end, because we love kids and we love seeing kids. The student council members had, when I was talking about how I was going to present, information to the school committee, and they had said, oh, can we do a video? And I said, sure. I said, what do you want to do a video about? And they were like, well, why do you love TES? And I was like, yep, let's go. So we went from classroom to classroom and selected various students to kind of just tell us what they love or what they find special about TES. So I just wanted to share those with you.
TES is special to me because I've been here for 3 whole years. The teachers are awesome and I learn cool things. TES is awesome because we have the best teachers.
TES is fun because at school you can learn. TES is so special because I made so many friends. My favorite something in elementary school thing is when my friends are being nice and my teachers.
I'm Aiden Rivard, and what's Templeton Elementary makes me so special is that art you can't mess up on, you just get better and better at your artworks.
I love TES because they help me with my reading and I love seeing Miss Kadash.
Part 2.
I like Templeton Elementary School because it helps me make new friends and I really like the teachers. Practice first. I love TES because I met my new friends and they help me every day.
What?
What makes TES so special is art and music because it helps me with my drawing skills, and music also helps me with my singing voice, so I get better every day.
What makes TES so special for me is being on student council. Something that I love about TES is that you can make so much friends.
TES is special because of all of us. We are kind. TES is so special because of everyone's so different.
TES is so special because of all the teachers.
I love TES because we get to draw our own mascots.
TES is special because I see my friends.
TES also has
It's okay.
TES is also special because we have really great guidance counselors. TES is special because some schools don't have to pick their mascots. We did, and we are the TES Eagles.
1.
TES is special because my mom works here.
Yes, she does.
TES is special because all the teachers.
So, just a little glimpse into our day to day and, we're thrilled at where we're at. We know that we still have room to continue to grow, but I think we're on, the right trajectory at this point.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It's really exciting to get these updates. Are there any questions?
Did I miss anything?
No, great job.
I'm surprised I didn't see Dr. Cash on the video.
Please be the center of attention.
I'm behind them going.
And congratulations on those growth scores. That is definitely something to celebrate. I know that's something that TES has been working especially hard at. That, COVID recovery was really, really hard and we're, starting to see some, a lot of great work towards that. So thank you. Thank you for everything you do.
You're welcome. Thank you. Been a group effort, for sure.
Yes, a good team there.
The faculty speak very highly of the leadership, just so you are aware.
Thank you.
So keep it up.
The students. Yeah. The kids are the reason I'm there.
It's good to know.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much. You are more than welcome to stay if you would like, but we also understand that you have your own things you might like to get off to.
Thank you.
No one here for public input. And FDA was unable to be here this evening. So we'll move into budget updates. So very quickly on MSBA, the last time we were here, it was the night that Phillips voted. So we didn't actually have the results at that time. So in case you missed the big thank you email, we are very, very grateful for those who took the time to show up and make their voices heard at the ballot efforts. I know that that is a big ask, especially when there's only one thing on the ballot. So we really appreciate those who showed up for the school, or even just those who showed up to make sure that their voices were heard. And that's, as Dr. C says, democracy works for those who show up. So extremely grateful there and excited to see that project moving forward. FY26.
So, we've reported on how the budget is going, and generally, we're holding on, but something came up in the last week or so that will absolutely affect the FY26 budget. And again, we started talking about a budget, FY26 and FY27 will blend a little bit, together, but we start talking about this FY. So our insurance group, Mass Strategic, they have been for the last, 3, 4, 5 months, been talking about the districts or towns who have had a deficit. So how do you get a deficit? In general, for us, it's because we've had members who are insured with us, and they've had extraordinarily large claims. Okay, so in general, what we're paying in just isn't covering, 3, 4, or 5 maybe staff members or their dependents care. So when we on June 30th of 25, we had a deficit of $1,268,048. When it's June like that, and they did, our consultants were like, let's wait till reimbursements come in from insurance, let's, wait. Because at one moment you can, if we harken back to last year when some folks said that we had a surplus, we did not have a surplus, right? Because not all the claims had come in. Well, it works reverse, where you might have all these claims and insurance hasn't reimbursed you. So we've carried this debt along with many other districts and towns for quite a while. And, just like they said, in a way, much of the insurance came in, and offset these costs to the tune of roughly, and these round numbers, roughly to $500,000, $500,000. So the board is carrying, the Mass Strategic, the board is carrying probably somewhere in the area of, a little over $1.8 million in debt. So during one of their board meetings, they said, because we're all in the fiscal year, and we have to balance by the end of the fiscal year. That's generally how it goes. So they voted to have folks like us in Templeton, if you watched their presentation a few months ago, to pay 45% of that, right? So whatever your deficit is, you have to come up with a plan to pay 45% of it. Now, it was kind of ambiguous about when. Like that was kind of, we know that everyone knew that they had to pay it, but we were still kind of waiting because we kept being told, look, this credit will come in, well, the die is cast. So we roughly, as of, I guess, 3 days ago, our 45% of the FY 26 grand total is $539,791. Better than $1 million. Due June 30th. Now, so because this factors in FY 27 in a minute, but we've already reported out several times that we're just hanging in there. Everything is, good but tight. So where do you come up with $539,000? As you know, our E&D was certified, give or take,
$898,807.
We generally certify anywhere between the high fours and early $500,000. So we had more money to put towards FY 27. What our thinking is at this moment is not to pay the entire amount, but I would say, was it 300,000 we were talking? Yeah, roughly $300,000 from the E&D, which the school committee would have to vote, right, in the current FY to allocate towards this deficit. Now, it doesn't wipe it all out. The way we're thinking is that we'll carry this, and I think that will make them happy, for now. Because we have the highest, because we hadn't really had a chance to even talk about this because we're waiting for the insurance to come in. But that will, I think, satisfy the board. And how we'll pay for the remainder, we'd like to wait to the end of the FY as we generally, hopefully, have, I'll call it surplus, but whatever, unexpended, funds that we have at that point in time. We don't recommend that, of course, that we take 500,000 because we need to pay that forward for FY 27, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Realizing, of course, the board isn't prepared today at this moment to do that. We thought that it'd be best to explain it out. We have a meeting in a week, although certainly business that the school committee could take up if it so chooses.
We have till June 30th, but we just need to report to the board. Do we have some sort of a plan to at least start to make payment? So I think the fact that we sort of do have a plan will satisfy them for the time being, but sooner or later, we have to have a check.
Because what could it? Well, I won't mention the municipality, but someone has made the claim that they're just not going to pay it because whatever. So the board could then start charging interest. So we don't want interest on $500,000. And by the way, we're not that group. We're pacifists. What we need to do. But that is our recommendation. And quite frankly, it's the only option that we have currently. This is not something we could just go to, like, say, school choice. you just don't have,
Because
which we're gonna talk about.
our numbers are down right now too, so.
So, any questions?
My only question would be, is there any indication of when the remaining 55% is going to be paid, or are they only they're only requiring 45?
By June 30th.
All
No,
of
no, no,
them?
no.
Oh, the other one.
Like for litigation. We've done quite extensively, like on a personal call yesterday with them. The 55%, they feel that by the new rate adjustments for FY 27, the rate increases will be able to help cover that deficit that's left behind.
Now, to be honest, we've been told this before. In a sense, right? So, but you can't predict when you're going to have high numbers. You can't. And actually, Narragansett has had outstanding claims for quite a while. But people get sick and people need care. That's why you have health insurance. And so again, there's no shade on someone who that's what insurance is for. But when you start getting into what they call the pool and you start paying, the insurance on the insurance, it starts to, starts to add up. So again, this kind of blends into the FY 27, but we'll wait, because how do we make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again? We'll really kind of talk about in FY 27, but I think there was another question about
Yeah, so I just want to know where you're pulling the 300,000 from again.
from E&D,
What is END?
excess.
Efficiency.
Thank you.
You certified an amount close to $900,000.
Yeah, and we typically use that to fund FY 27.
Will we eventually have to resupplement the $300,000? Is that the goal, or do we get an END every single year?
You get it at the end of every single year.
Understood. Thank you.
It varies. This 898 is extremely high for us. Usually
It's around 400.
400 to 500.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay, now
So
I had to go back.
The reason why it's extra high this year is because in the spring, we got a rebate from Minuteman Shobar, our old health insurance group, of the excess that was not needed for the claims with them. So in the end, it's kind of like.
it's actually just going back to the machine.
So you're technically reusing it for essentially.
For a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So the additional 233 would come out of hopefully surplus at the end of the year by June 30th, that historically, have we benchmarked around there?
I try to aim for surplus, which is what we didn't spend on expenses and what we have gotten in unanticipated revenues,
Yeah.
like interest on the bank account. Will be like that thing. I usually try to aim for those numbers together roughly to be about 500, so I know when I do all the calculations for DOR, we can have an EMD of about 500,000. That kind of sets our benchmark to put towards the next year's budget.
So that means, most likely, probably, we're not gonna have as high an E&D moving into, to look into FY 28. The E&D is almost exactly like food.
Yeah.
I was just kind of say that if you are familiar with the municipal side of things, it's our food.
I was really hoping to be able to use 800,000 of that to put towards FY 27 to kind of give us a leg up in FY 27, but we gotta take care of FY 26 before we can get there.
Another question on 6. So the news doesn't get any better. Actually, it gets decidedly worse. So what we're gonna, in a minute, I'm gonna start with this, because I just wanna, and then we're gonna put up a slide in a few minutes. So Julie Kelly, who works for Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools. She is our data person from ours. And she does all the advocacy, and she's really the numbers person. So that's who really feeds us as much information as possible. But to give you an idea about this new, the FY 27 budget season.
Just to stop, just
Oh.
one step back. The governor released the budget numbers, so we have our foundation budget numbers that came out this week. And we've been telling you that we are in hold harmless, which is we have less students than last year, so we get the same amount of money as last year, this year, no increases. So that's where we're at now.
Right. So, remembering your hold harmless, definition. 229 districts in the state, out of 300.
Hold on. Are you on something else?
Well, yeah,
Okay,
we are. We don't need the slide yet.
sorry.
No problem. Yeah, I'm just gonna read it. These just came off like literally this morning, so we didn't.
You don't
put a-
have.
Yeah, there's roughly 300 and some odd districts. 229 of them were held harmless this budget season. 69 of them were regionals. Many urbans for the first time. So we believe, and so does many who do this for a living, that now that the urbans have been held harmless, now someone's going to go up. So when the big cities are now held harmless, which means they're only going to get roughly what they received last year, that becomes problematic. There are districts who are close to us who are considered urbans, and they usually receive anywhere between $1.5 and $2 million, just because of, because of just the funding formula, et cetera. And if they're held harmless, that is going to be devastating. So in a way, this would bring attention to it, although the regionals have been clamoring about this for a very long time. This is the last year of the Student Opportunity Act increases for FY27, which if you remember back, then Governor Baker created, and of course the Senate, they created a funding formula to help increase funding to districts, but the criterias were low income and ELL and special needs. Those are the multipliers, right? So it's really fed into the urban districts quite a bit. So that's why the urban districts were really starting to see the increases that. And by the way, we were also a healthy recipient of year 2 of that, when we had 100+ students that one year, and we saw the first year $666,000. Funny joke about that is that we've never seen that money. We actually called the state. We thought they'd be a mistake. So we never have been positive before. In the following year, we received close to $1 million because of all those factors of SOA. So SOA worked for those 2 years. Okay. But this is the last year that it's going to be in play in 2027. Regional transportation is reportedly going to be funded in the high 80s. That's good. And it's a little bit more than we generally are used to. We'll repeat that when we see it. They always seem to be really high when it first comes out, and always seems to kind of drop to the 70s.
The cherry sheet has, the number that's on the cherry sheet is figured at 80%. They're saying it's supposed to be higher, but we'll see if when it falls settled, if it actually is.
So I know we're held harmless. Do we have a number as to what additional
Additional funds right now, they're giving $75 per student, so that equates to an increase of us in chapter 70 of $96,000.
Okay, but substantively lower than that.
Yes.
Great.
Okay. And so, are you ready for the slide?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. So one of the things that I will tell you before we really talk about the slide is, remember we talked about what low income percentage group we were in. And so last year we were a little over 40%, which made us group 8. We have dropped to group 7. Okay, which by the way, we dropped almost close to 3%, 4% of our students, meaning that there were 4% more students, roughly, give or take, in the low income group last year. Now, we should be excited about that, and we are, of course. But we don't believe that this is a great measure of what low income is. Let me just be clear about that. And with the higher the group number you are, of course, you get more money, but also it allows you to apply for more state funded grants. So sometimes they'll say you must be over the 40% mark or 42% mark, and we've been close, but we dropped considerably. So this year, this year we reported out at 38.89, which is the low income group of 7. So I just want to set that as a factor because it's not up there. So in all of our years, and we can say that kind of almost, I guess, braggadociously, I say it a lot, Anne Marie and I have been doing this a long time. Neither one of us can remember a year at any point that we have seen, such increases, but across the board. Now, we're not alone. We know that. We know that you can't pick up a paper without seeing some district and having meetings just like this going, we're this, we're that, or this, or, people talking, it's hard. But it has hit us incredibly hard. So these are the drivers of why the budget is going to, is going to spike to honestly, to unheard of levels, is that when you start looking at out of district tuition, so we have fewer school choice in kids, right? We know that. We're roughly the same about out, but also, but that, again, that gap, which we'll talk about when I present my report, we present the presentation next week, I guess. That margin was too thin. Also, it's gone up with charter school, considerably, actually.
There's 7 kids.
And 7 is a high number for us in terms of charter, and of course, that increased. But so when you look at that, the out-of-district tuition has gone up $287,000. Sped transportation, again, that's high. That's $174,000. School choice out, school choice out, it's broken out, and of course, charter school. Your MVP, that's the MVP program. That assessment, again, it's about how many of those kids are in the vocational program. That is actually, we have a vocational line now. We actually receive monies for Chapter 74, but that money goes right to Monty Tech. So much of
We keep the academic portion of the number. I think the number is 18,000 something.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how it breaks down voc versus academic, but Monty Tech bills us for the voc piece, and for the students this year, it was like $5,600 a piece. So that's what I used to guess on this number. I'm sure it's probably a little bit off. We have 12 kids this year, but it's anticipated to add plumbing and possibly have 18 kids next year. So that is my estimate of the bill we will receive from Monty Tech for the voc piece of that.
I'm gonna get to, when I go through this a little bit more, I'm gonna talk about Monty Tech in terms of numbers. But so health insurance. That's almost $500,000, $455,000.
We are looking at they're not set in stone, but a 20% increase on our employee health insurance.
Which, by the way, because we had a very long conversation, it goes back now to the question about, what's stopping this from happening next year? Well, in talking to our Kevin Pecos and company, they feel that this rate increase plus much of those high claims are now in the arrears, right? They're kind of behind us now, so to speak. So, when they start looking at the kind of projections, they feel that this will really take care of us. We'll have to see. To be very, we have to see.
The thing is this is extremely high for us, but it is not in the industry. Maya's looking at a 14% increase for their insurance rates for those people. GIC is doing a major overhaul with their health insurance plan, and there's a big vote on February 12th. And GIC is the benchmark for all the plans in the state. they're looking at a 10 to 12% increase on top of probably increasing all of the deductibles to the members that are in the GIC plans. So February 12th, I guess, is a very important date across the state. Because that ties into one of these other numbers, this GIC retirement assessment. That's the assessment we get for all of our teachers that are in mass teacher retirement and retired. That number, when the woman gave it to me yesterday, said that number will probably change and probably go up depending on what happens under February 12th. Usually they give me that number in January and it stays that way. They just will catch up in years later, but they're anticipating that is going to change. So insurance does not look good out there for anybody.
Kind of retirement assessment is of those folks who are most of your FCW members.
Yeah.
So that went up about $80,000 as well. So when we start looking at this, you're looking now, again, these are just fixed costs. These are costs that we have no control over. $1.5 million. Now, you will notice, that there's salaries not on there. We just went with the budget drivers in terms of the hard costs at this point. So you look up in the right-hand corner, again, I'm looking at the TV, so I can barely see it, but you're looking at a $2.1 million increase. So our hope was, not again, it almost becomes in the ocean, so to speak, but that 800,000 we would have put towards FY 27. We're not gonna be able to do that. So we got to pay what we need to pay for FY 26, and then whatever 600,000, whatever it is going to go towards FY 27. So those are the budget drivers. Someone might say, well, what are you going to do? Yes, well, company, we're going to formulate obviously a plan as best as we can, given these numbers. We don't have the numbers from the towns. To put this in perspective, a 2.5% increase from, say, Templeton doesn't even cover the minimum local contribution. It's like short by $100,000. So to put this again, that is, we've had this happen before, but this is jaw dropping. Right? So it doesn't even cover what the state says you have to pay. Phillipson as well. I mean, it's a big number. It's relative, but it's still a big number. So that is what we've been sitting on. We've known that it was going, we knew most of these numbers, but we just didn't know the state numbers, and we knew that we were held harmless. So we had a pretty good number to use, so to speak, but now that we have the number.
The thing we've been struggling with is we fully realize that nobody's gonna look at this number and be like, oh, no problem, got you. Like, we are not delusional. But in a world where the 2.5% doesn't even meet the minimum contribution, we're really struggling with what numbers do we even play with to start to consider what to cut without detrimentally hurting our school. And so what we are hoping to have as a healthy conversation next week is to get a better sense of what are their plans for FY 27, because it sort of feels like throwing darts in the dark right now to find another number. But we already cut the staff last year. So there's not, that is there wasn't fat last year, so I even hate saying this, but like that doesn't exist anymore. That option is not, is not accessible to us as a factor to play with, and then it becomes really tough from there to think about what to cut. And so I don't want you to be looking at this and thinking we're not looking at scenarios. We are, and yet all the scenarios are devastating. And it is hard to figure out we don't want people to panic. We don't want folks to be, worried about next year until we know exactly what to worry about. And so that's where we're hoping to get some information from the towns, and yet we're also not putting all our eggs in that basket either. So I want to be clear that we're walking this fine line of, how do we start talking about these cuts? And we will start talking about them soon. But we wanted to just be transparent about what a level service budget looks like in the upfront, so that everyone can have a very clear understanding that there's no good scenarios, because when your must-have costs are 1.5 million, it's a really tough situation to be in.
Over the last couple of years, we've seen, of course, as everyone else has seen these costs kind of creep up. Well, this wasn't a creep, this was a big jump. We've been able to, in very, very strategic, focused areas, been able to use school choice funds to offset X. I mean, not necessarily all, but these things that no longer exists. When I say it no longer exists, we are going to, one of the many things that we're going to be talking about, strategize, is that those 9 issues that are in school choice. We had 2 missions. We've succeeded in 1. Matter of fact, the year that we had the $1.1 million increase, the very first thing we did is we took insurance out of school choice. And probably that has, that honestly, biblically, it saved us. If you think about it, or it staved off, at least some, I don't know, devastating results, at least 34 years. Those 9 teachers, of course, are needed. It's not like you can just say, well, just get rid of them. They're going to have to come to the local summit at some point. I mean, when I say at some point, that almost gives the impression that we don't have to. If we don't take in some, and again,
Either start taking in significant.
significant choice clearance, right? You've seen some districts, and I was actually kind of surprised, some local districts actually doing some open houses. About, hey, come see us. We've got all these great things. That's, I think, just not, I don't want to call it desperate, but that's what people are doing. I remember, coming here in 2016 before I actually became the superintendent again in open house here. I vowed never to do that. The area superintendent said, well, we've got a gentleman's agreement anyway. Not to do that, because it's pilfering, and we're just not going to do that. That's how we feel about it. I will tell you, Gardner, Ash West, and Narragansett made that a long time ago, because we were the recipient of about 11 football players just so happened from Gardner. It just so happened that an entire football team, in essence, came over here, and it just was, to me, it just didn't feel right. So it happens when it happens. And by the way, it's perfectly legal to do that. You can't have an open house. You don't hear me say anything differently. But you can see a time when somebody like, well, can't we do that, Cassavant? I mean, I won't do it, but I'm just saying that that's where it's at right now. But school choice is not going to save the day. It's not. The number of kids that you would take in it would just be impossible. It would literally be impossible because we have grown so much as a district. right, in terms of the number of kids, we don't talk about that so much anymore, but we have, and we've got the apartments that everybody wants to talk about. I don't know what that's gonna, I'm not even focusing on that, to be very candid, but yeah, could that throw things, into a kilter? I guess. Right now, I'm just focusing on July 1, in getting some type of, formation of budget.
Since it's another 1.3 million some odd in the increase, do you have a rough overview of what that includes? I mean, I know salaries, I know.
Yeah, salaries are about half of it, and then it's just like on this, these are all the large things. Like I have $25,000 for an increase in my property insurance. But like that's small compared to this, but there's a lot of that small stuff that's making up that over maybe.
Yeah, I just wanted to, because 1.3 is also another very large number, and so I didn't want to ignore some of the factors that are leading into that, so it's helpful to have a rough understanding.
Exactly. So, what our job and what do? We advise the school committee. We're going to put together the PowerPoint to explain all the data points that, in what, finding detail if needed. I know that we're going to be looking, someone's going to ask the question, well, how do you balance? Just given, we don't know, I'm not, we just haven't communicated with the towns, but, well, the number to hit would be, it'd be biblical. You wouldn't be able to school. Right, so if it became staff, right, because you couldn't run a school. We've already done things like close an elementary school back in, we've done those things. Where, some districts are doing now, because the situation, but we're just ahead, when I say ahead, we've just been there already. So we're gonna do our diligence, right? We're gonna do what we've done, well, at least the last 10 years anyway, is try to project and do the best we can to hit a number or to an area, but at some point it's gonna come down to, that you still need we're staff intensive. That's what we are. You're not gonna touch any of the special education services. You're not. These are just things I can just say out loud. You're not gonna touch any of those because they're federally mandated. There are a lot of other great reasons why I shouldn't, but if no one cared about them, they're federally mandated. So speech and language, OT, your school sites, I could go on special education teachers, on and on and on. You need those. They're the caseloads are, we have those that.
Well, and I know that we've seen an increase in need of services, and I'm assuming that if we were to calculate that out, that would also be part of that additional 1.3. And I'm not referring to the out of district in that
Like
case.
on this where it says like the sped transportation, my biggest increase in that number is not for the ones we transport out of district, it's the ones we have to transport within our district to our school.
All right.
So that's a little bit telling there.
Yeah, it is.
The kind of services that we're seeing in the schools.
Yeah.
I was looking at the slides today, and last year we were tasked with doing the budget forecast for 2 years out. I had forecast $1.5 million in increases for FY 27. The 1.3 that is left over from this that I can't control was not far off from that estimate.
Thank you for reminding me. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it a lot, quite frankly, just given, the criticism. There's no other word for it that we've received. I will tell you that our projection in that realm has been spot on. And I would say that. So if someone would like to say again that we could not project and, you're not giving us that information, we now we're 3 for 3. We have 3 years for 3. And the last 2 years, I've made sure I mentioned it on camera, with those numbers up, so that there is no doubt that we have not projected appropriately, or accurately, because we have done, Anne Marie has done a fantastic job in making sure that we are very, now things change, but in terms of that, we have been
In
very,
terms of
very
our,
close.
what we have control over, we were spot on. That's the things that we don't have control over that. So here's what I want to open up to the table is we have our multi-boards meeting next week. And what had been asked of me as chair is that folks have an opportunity to talk about things that they would like to see or hear about in relation to the budget in time for that meeting. And beyond just everyone going through sticker shock right now. That's one of the things I'd like to understand, because last year we had that request of, can we look at what transportation increases were for surrounding towns was one of the big asks, and we made sure that that was in there. I think now we're in a multi-year agreement, so that's less, pertinent at this time. Still important, but not as pertinent for this year. But that is one of the things I'd like to open this up to, and if you need more time to think on that, absolutely, but also recognize that there's 1 week between now and our multi-board meeting. So if you do have questions you'd like to have answered, let's make sure that those are coming in quickly.
We have a pretty robust data set now. We've been asked a lot of questions, and I don't say that, any other way. We're happy, honestly. Some of the more critical questions that we've been asked over the years have actually provided some of us the best information. But so, if anyone is watching, and I'll say this again, we, as long as it's done, good taste and, not offhanded, we really do. When I say enjoy, we'll definitely track down anybody.
You put in
We
every
have-
effort.
Absolutely. It's actually changed some of the way we've actually done things and budgeted things, to be very candid, when we've had, good, again, civil districts, we really have. And, but we do have quite a bit of information now, just based over the years. So I think that if any of those, that, if you're thinking about that at home, wonder X, if we don't have it, we're probably pretty darn close to having it.
We also have on the website, there's that link that has quite a few years worth of budget information.
And then I guess my last closing, if no one has specific questions at this time, would be that I fully recognize what the appetite for this is going to be following a vote on a roof. I mean, I'm not walking in blind, and the challenge is that, taxpayers struggle to differentiate between, having just voted for a bunch of money for a roof and then also simultaneously absorbing and understanding that in no way helps with those year-to-year costs, especially those costs that we have no influence or control over. So, I do want to make sure that gets set up, and I'm recognizing that to everyone involved. Yeah, Sean?
And I think I understand the answers, but just to ask this and say this out loud, and maybe Dr. C, you could help, because we kind of conversed about this. What would it take to regionalize services?
Well, honestly, regionalizing services, depending on what we're talking about, I really believe it would just be probably an MOU or something between, school committees, et cetera. This wouldn't be a regionalization type of an actual, you couldn't do that quickly, but if you wanted to regionalize, say, sped transportation, that could really just be a memorandum of agreement between two towns, two districts, or however folks want to do something.
The challenge we have is that both towns
Yeah.
have made it very clear to me that they're not interested in that.
Yeah.
And would it truly be a fast enough
Well, and the other question is,
exercise
is it
to
beneficial?
We don't know.
And that's the other question too, because it's been asked to me, I feel like I should
Yeah.
answer it to a public forum, have a conversation.
I think keep asking the question.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my answer at this time is, I was basically told, do not proceed.
Right.
By both towns, and being a elected official, I need to be hearing from the public that this is what they want, no matter what the towns are telling me, in order for me to really start
pushing on that, especially where we don't have
Yeah.
a signed regional agreement.
And I want to be clear, I don't think anybody's necessarily pushing, we just think that people ask questions, trying to be creative in terms of,
Yeah,
you know, again, as an elected official also, right?
Yeah.
The questions have just been coming up, there hasn't been any like, oh, we should.
yeah,
It's been like, well, would this make a difference?
Would it make a
You know,
difference?
and I think it's at least valuable to, you know, understand what that process looks like and at least put that on the table. And would it even make a difference? I don't know the answers to that, but Frank, Jennifer.
yeah.
So,
Just gonna give you an idea about special ed district, right? So so this year we have 52 special ed districts, okay? Important. Last year we had 53. Now you would think, by the way, that's great. I'm according to the chapter 70 sheet, right? So, and it's different, it's not exact, but what I'm saying is when those numbers go up or down, we're looking at them and we're saying, why? But to think that if we kept base, and we did, give or take, right? Those numbers are not gone, regardless, right? When you look at, again, I don't know how many of these kiddos are being transported in or out. When you start looking at spread transportation, to go up that much, you would think, you would just think, oh, well, God, we must be transporting, and maybe we are. Maybe there's more kids of the 52 or 3 going, those are things that we're going to check into. But, and if it is, then we need to look at, okay, why and who are they and all those things. But again, I'm not, like I said, it's not exactly an exact measure, but when those numbers go up, usually costs go up. Transportation is a little bit different because maybe those kiddos, some of them are more being transported, but transportation of students generally it's pretty high bar. Right? It's a pretty high bar to have your child transported, right, in special education. And so it's not something that just happens, so to speak. So those are the things that we look into quite a bit. We'll keep looking into that. But I just thought that's just one small, minor, data point, but something that we'll look into. Going back to, can we regionalize services? Can we regionalize, sped transportation? Is that something that makes sense? That we would have to do. Well, first off, we'd have to get permission to kind of look into it, right? Or at least have an agreement. But we wouldn't know until we knew.
I have a question, the spread transportation, when we're talking about that, does that mean, children that are being transported to the, schools with the van? Or that's separate from busing, right?
It's the vans.
The van.
Vans, we have one yellow van that is run by McCarthy, which transports we have like a half a dozen kids that have to ride it, that live on all like the roads that the buses can't get to.
Oh,
For instance, there's a road, Willis Road, it's across from Market Basket, but it's in Phillipston.
right,
So there's, I think, 3 kids out there that live on that road.
right,
There's no room for the bus to go out there and turn around, so that's why that van goes out there.
okay. And then, the school choice tuition out and the charter school tuition out. How do you know that those numbers are that high for FY 27? Do you know there's gonna be more kids going?
Those numbers are from the state, they came on our cherry sheets and they base them on the current population right now. Those numbers could go up or down. I've seen that go both ways, and there's no telling which way it's gonna go. My best guess is that based on what the state has on record for the students we have right now.
Thank you.
Is the employee health insurance currently at a 20% increase? Or?
It's not voted on, but that's what they're telling us to plan on.
So depending on GIC vote, that could go off. Potentially.
I don't think so. I think the GIC vote could possibly be something, depending on what they do, that we could look at possibly changing our plan structure. So possibly we could have higher deductibles that might save us a few percent. But we have that large deficit there, so that's most of our problem. And the advisors feel like this is gonna bottom out sooner or later. They said it ebbs and flows, and right now we're on the high. They anticipate at some point it's gonna break. One of the things that is on the table is like GLP-1s. Like if you want to discontinue those out of your plan and the Mass Strategic Board votes, that might save you 1% or 2% on your rates. But those are a very hot topic. Are people really gonna vote to not have those available to your employees under insurance? So there's a lot of factors in like, it's just such a moving target to pinpoint, like, at some point, they're gonna say, this is what it is, and then you're just gonna have to suffer the consequences, whether it's good or it's bad. So hopefully, if that rate is where it needs to be, it will take care of our deficit and will prevent us from going there again.
Hope none of you were hoping for an easy budget year. That's not what we got. So please do be in touch. Please be in touch. If there is something that you want to see in the multi-board meeting, a question that you have, a point of curiosity, a level of detail. You know, we wanted to make sure that you at least had a clear picture of what we're looking at for this year. But beyond that, there's still a lot of work to be done, so.
And as far as like the income sheet, I basically have it figured, but it really depends on what we decide to do with that bill in E&D. That will change the numbers drastically. It will honestly, depending on what they say they can give us, because we have not pulled any number from either side yet. And I also have to add their capital debt assessment to this, but that's separate. They voted that, that's extra. I just have to add it to it, but I don't have the some people who are working with the financial advisors on getting the borrowing side for the project.
So if you have questions, do you email them to you or?
It would be best if you emailed both of us.
Yeah.
That meaning Henry and I.
Yeah, Dr. Cassian and Emery, because they'll have, I do not have the numbers at my easy disposal, so you best to go direct to the source in this instance. You can certainly copy me for awareness if you'd like to.
I would also like to recommend, and again,
Yeah.
week out, but when we've had these situations before, we didn't have a great turn. I'm not talking about the cupcake. I think we definitely need to, we need to probably have some parent forums about this. You know, regardless of what happens, I want people to understand why this is happening. What I know about any budget process is that it'll automatically go towards, it'll go to, they're paying people too much money. Well, I think that's relative, one, but we of course have more data on salary and what other people are paid around us salaries. We probably, I don't know what percentage of time me tracking down salaries, but I think it's, but I do understand why it's important. People need to understand where our teachers are at, right? And how they compare, because you have to pay at least a fair, quote unquote, fair wage. You have to be competitive, you know, depending on the size of your district. We're not Wellesley, right? We're not Worcester. But, you know, we do compete with all of our friends to the north, south, east, and west of us. That's important. I almost like to put that information out first and let people just kind of gravitate towards that and just kind of soak it in. So if it is a question, you know, let's talk about it. But we've never seen, and we're gonna go back because I want to see what the percent increase to these same these hard costs have been over the last X amount of years. Without even knowing, I know that it'll be quite a jump, meaning from.
Well, I mean, insurance last year was 9% increase.
Right.
It's 20.
It's 20 this year. You see, but overall, I'm just talking about the overall number, right? Like, and we're just, I want to make sure that we understand that as well. But I'd like to do that. Once we talk about this next week and we do this more, I really do want to engage the parents. I don't want them to be surprised, nor do I want them to be.
I don't want everybody to be getting their information from Facebook.
Right.
Would be my goal. I would really like to be having conversations with parents in the district. And in addition, as we all know, the majority of residents in our towns don't understand the town meeting process or how a budget gets voted in. And, I'm not saying that we need to start preaching about that, but if they don't foundationally understand what it means to show up for your schools, then, that someone can care deeply and not know what action to take. And so we need to, those are a couple of things we're gonna be working on as well. Okay. I'm going to move on unless somebody stops me. I'm guessing that we have fulfilled your business manager's report.
Yeah, I didn't do it, it's been 2 weeks ago, so.
Yeah, and then I apologize, municipal representative was listed under ongoing business. That's not a point. I missed that when I was creating the agenda this week. So moving into curriculum and instruction, would you be willing to come and join us up here at the table? For your blog updates and super cheap.
Most steps I've taken in a couple hours. So my first update is an update on professional development. And Ms. Rasmussen spoke earlier about Templeton, but we are coming off of last year where we had focused heavily on universal design for learning, really supporting all students in core classrooms. And so this year we're continuing to do that, but in slightly different work depending on our schools. So our elementary school has really been taking the first half of the year to dive into writing and looking at their writer's workshop model, their instructional routines and practices with the core curriculum they're utilizing. And starting last month, they just have shifted into math. And so we're not making any program changes, but what we are doing is looking at how we're utilizing the program and structuring in classrooms and structuring lessons to be able to engage students and differentiate for individual kiddos within our math blocks. So at the elementary level, I mean, you saw the data earlier, they are just off and running. And so what's nice about that structure right now for math is we're starting to look at where the needs are by grade level. And we have some grades that have a lot of new teachers. So we're focusing some of our sessions, sort of like a breakout session model on sort of what are the core program routines and how do we do some of these instructional routines and how do we manage our time when we have 60 minutes to get through all of these different activities. And then we have other teachers who are delving into their curriculum and really saying, where are the areas where I need to prioritize standards based on my data with students? And they're having some sort of more in-depth conversations about adjustments to the curriculum versus how do I manage and use this? So that's been going, quite well. At our middle school is focusing on inclusive practices and really thinking about how are we meeting the needs of all students. So they started off the year really diving into what does it mean as a teacher to be a warm demander. So what that is how do you have high expectations for students while at the same time being well connected and understand students' interests, needs, and social emotional supports for them as a teacher as well. And so they are really working on how do we connect with kids and push them when and where they need that support to reach high expectations in classrooms. They are shifting from that now into unpacking data to kind of individualize plans for small group instruction in their classrooms. So trying to break into either, more of a rotation and small group model or individual sessions to pull students to provide a little bit more targeted support based on their data. At the high school level, the high school's been focusing a lot on their core curriculum. So they've been focusing on, as teams, unpacking standards to really understand the core transfer skills, knowledge, and information that students need to acquire over the course of a unit in their courses. And then from there, they've been working on how to develop, but when I say assessments, not multiple choice assessments or open response, but they've been working specifically on performance-based tasks and what kind of relevant tasks students can do to apply and demonstrate the knowledge and skills that they're doing in their classrooms. And then our district-wide, we've had a breakout session for professional development with our health and physical education teachers, where they have been really auditing and redesigning the curriculum to make sure that our curriculum is in alignment with frameworks for health and PE. And they're going to be shifting that work a little bit to looking at their instructional materials and looking at whether we need to adopt some new instructional materials to make sure that they have the tools they need to teach the curriculum. So that is, and then I should add too, our paraprofessionals have been getting more targeted professional development this year too, on how to work with students in classrooms and support learning needs of students. Some of that has been focusing on behavioral support, and we're shifting as well to include academic supports and strategies for working with various students, whether that's as a one-on-one instructional para or a small group paraprofessional or so forth. And then our nursing staff has been doing a lot of work on pediatric diabetes and a couple of other hot topics in the nursing realm. And then we have some other groups working on some more specified or specific areas, like our occupational therapists and our speech pathologists. In addition to that, our administrative team had a professional development session at the beginning of the year with one of our district's attorney, focusing on updates and best practices for student discipline. So they reviewed laws, procedures, and protocols with our team. It was really helpful because we do have some new folks on our administrative team this year, some new assistant principals, either new at that position or new to the district. And so it was really helpful to have a chance, not only to go over updates, but also to have folks who are new have access to, instruction from our attorney, who really has more knowledge than I think I'll ever have in my lifetime. So that's been really, really helpful, and our feedback across all our sessions has continued to be pretty positive. Any questions on PD? Additionally, I planned to give you an update on our district and school report cards, because the state is supposed to release them by January 30th. So I thought I would be safe today putting that on our agenda to report out to you, but they haven't yet released them. So I will give you a sort of a heads up, they're coming. So every year, we typically early February, we will send this information out to families for both the district and the schools. We're required to do that under ESSA. And so what that looks like typically is a letter from the building principal that will go out with all of the newsletters at some point, usually early February. That indicates that the state has released both district and school report cards, and that they provide a link to those. They'll be public on our website. If any parent or guardian or community member would request a hard copy of those, we're also required to provide hard copies for anyone who requests those as well. Essentially, these report cards are a way for the state to show us how schools are performing in multiple areas. And so things that are included on the report card are things like student enrollment and demographics, and it will compare your school to previous years and your school to the state, your school to the district and your school to the state. We also have teacher qualification data that gets released in those. Access to various coursework, so access to advanced coursework, access to the arts, access to digital literacy and computer science courses, and I believe that those are the buckets under access to coursework. Student attendance and discipline data is included in that. Graduation rate data, dropout rate data, post-secondary enrollment, which is essentially the rate of students that are attending college when they graduate and leave our district. Of course, MCAS data, so you have academic growth and achievement data. And lastly, there's financial data released on your district. And what they're really looking at in the financial data component is $1 spent per pupil. That's how they're reporting that out. So that data will be forthcoming. It will be sent out to all family members and the community via school newsletters and the website, but unfortunately don't have data to show you today. I know you're all heartbroken. Coming.
We'll get it tomorrow.
Exactly, right? It'll be in my inbox when I get home tonight. And then, as I think our school rep and our student rep and Ms. Rasmussen mentioned, we are at the tail end of our benchmark assessment window. Our window technically closes tomorrow. We do have some students still doing some makeups. So, at our next meeting, next month, I will have our DIBELS data and our benchmark, STAR assessment data for reading and math to present as well. It's coming.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any questions? Thank you.
Surplus items, I think these are old as well. That's what I thought. Okay. We have no items not reasonably anticipated, and so I would open it up for any school committee comments.
I'm not sure if I can comment this. Can
Give it a go.
I mention anything about, school committee and elections coming up?
You can mention the fact that, this is the time for folks to be reaching out to their towns
Yes.
and securing their papers if they're interested
Yeah.
in, yes, we will have some we will have open positions, so if you either sitting at this table and this is your year to be reelected, yes, Sean's pointing to himself, I know this is his year, if you have questions for me about whether or not this is your year to be reelected, please feel free to reach out to me. Or if you were interested in having a seat at the table, yes, this is time to be collecting those initial signatures to get on the ballot. Is that what you were hoping?
Yes, I can give it a date.
Phillipson or?
Yeah, Phillipston's gonna have a newsletter coming out, February newsletter is gonna be coming out. And, March 30th is the last day to obtain nomination papers. And, the election is on Monday, May 18th. So yes, please reach out to your town clerks.
And like I said, I know there was a student at a college that reached out to me for information on what status everybody had, so I'll dig that up and send it out to school committee so that you know what your next election is, just so you have that information handy, because the years just kind of blur together, so it's hard to remember.
It was a fast 3 years.
It was a fast 3 years. Any other school committee comments? And thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate you. Right. Finance and facilities, we reported out on that last time, so we will skip that. District operations.
So we met last night, it was a reschedule from our missed meeting, a couple weeks ago. We talked about, a few things, but we looked at the CTE admissions recruitment and retention policy. We have attached here. We initially, voted on this in October. Desi came back with just some feedback, that they wanted us to include, some specific procedural language around, providing the tech schools with a list of students in 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade, for them to be able to reach out to. So that is in here. And we voted to bring it to full committee and suspend the first reading, accept the changes for the second reading, final vote.
All right, so I would entertain a motion to suspend the first reading and accept the changes to policy CTE admissions recruitment and retention policy for second reading as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Hank. Second by Heather. Any questions, comments, or concerns about moving this forward expeditiously? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, and I say yes, so that is unanimous, so we can go ahead and process that change. Any other updates you wanted to make sure to raise to our attention at this time?
Dr. Castleman shared with us, that we had some title changes for some of our administrative teams in the buildings. Did you want to go through the changes?
Sure, as we explained out last, we had a lot of movement last spring. So Michelle Henry, was the interim school principal. Aaron O'Day was the interim high school vice principal, and Janet Smith was the interim PDS vice principal, given all moves that we have to make. And in speaking with each and one of them, they'd like to stay in their roles. Here's what I wanted, I did not make a comment. I wanted to, get them there and see if they, well, if it was a fit, and it was. So each of the folks that I just mentioned lose the interim title, portion of the title, I should say, and become school principal, assistant principal, and assistant principal at the elementary school.
So, congratulations to them.
Great.
And then the final thing we discussed, because we have this moving deadline of board docs / diligent, whatever it is now, expiring in April. So I reached out to a few different places, all had quotes that were around the same as diligent, but I did find one that was less. It's a company called Onboard. They gave us a quote with a couple of different options. So I would say we're still looking at anywhere from $7,000 to $9,000 per year for this service. We also discussed the possibility of bringing it in-house and creating sort of a shared Google Drive or Google folders to store meeting minutes and post agendas. There's some concerns with that. We don't know who exactly would be in control of that, how long it would take to integrate to do a mass data download and integrate it onto a Google shared drive or platform. So that seems very big, and I'm not exactly sure how like that.
Susan, you want to speak
A little bit, because we looked at it on an emergency basis
Okay,
last year.
Susan wasn't there when we were talking.
Yes.
Totally.
We did speak with Jared Ryan, in IT when this first came about last year. And he kind of looked at it very, rough numbers, so to speak, and said that it is something that we could possibly do here. We need to have him come in and talk a little bit more about it, or talk to the district operations.
It is, because it isn't something we can just decide to do, set it up quickly, and there's a lot of.
It's not super quick, but it's doable.
Okay.
Dr. Casper, do you remember anything else he said? But he has a few ideas, I'll say that.
It's doable.
But it's gonna take some time.
It will take some time.
Can we, rather than having you both speak over memory, although I'm sure
Yeah,
it's
sure.
very accurate. Could we,
You're so kind. That was really kind, actually. That was really, it's really nice of you to say it. Yeah.
Could we arrange to see if Jared could attend the next district operations meeting, and then, or whatever meeting, we're gonna look at another solution, because maybe he should be involved in that, and then that way we would have, like, however you'd wish to execute that, if you're thinking.
We need to make a decision on what we're gonna do, because
Yeah.
we're getting close to.
So then if we need to make a decision and we need to invite him to a meeting in February, then that is another option. But I'm thinking that maybe he is there for the discussion with the larger committee, so that we can look at, okay, do we want to move forward with this other? And we have to remember that no matter what, this is an increase, another one,
Yeah.
versus what we have historically been spending, because we convinced board docs last year to give us an extension, because basically they had sent us a reminder at the 11th hour. And it truly was not enough time to make any other decision other than to increase from just under $6,000 a year to over $11,000 a year was what they had presented us with, which was just an absolutely doubling the cost without doubling the values. No one was keen on that. And so we wanted an extra year to look at this, and now
we're here.
So we have to make some decisions. So if perhaps we want to coordinate, Danielle, on making sure that you and I get that on the agenda in the right way for not obviously the multi-board meeting, but another February meeting. And figuring out how to get the right information available so that the school committee can make a decision one way or the other. And then making sure Jared's present to be able to talk to what that would look like for us to take it in-house. I do know many districts do handle it.
Yeah.
It's just the transition that I would guess that everyone was feeling concerned about. Is that accurate?
Yes, what does that transition look like? And I'm sure Jared is, He does his job very well, and he'll know exactly what questions to ask. But my concern immediately is, what does a mass data download look like, and how do you even move that into some organized?
Right, and there was also some question about what information we could get from Diligent on all of our.
Yeah, there
Right,
was-
what do we have access to?
Historic stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
how that can come over.
Yeah, so maybe we also want to simultaneously start that conversation, because I think one thing is clear, which is that we are not staying with that. And so no matter what that looks like, whether we move to another
Right.
system or whether we move to Google Docs, maybe that's another area where we can start to get additional information. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for getting that started and leading that up and having those initial conversations. Labor Management Committee has had no meetings, any CPAC updates at the moment? Nothing at the moment, okay, any PTO updates at the moment?
Nothing at the moment.
Okay. We will skip Student Advisory Council, any legislative updates at the moment?
Yes, tomorrow is the deadline for Congress to decide to fund our government. There really is no appetite for another government shutdown, so everybody's got their fingers crossed this will go through. What we're looking at right now is the potential for all of our federal grants to be funded at level funding, which would be amazing. So keep all your party parts crossed for that bill happens.
Noted. Okay, we've had no correspondence. Our multi-board meeting is next Thursday at 5:30 PM. We do not need executive session this evening, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
I'll give it to Hank and
I'll take the second.
give Sean the second. Seniority matters.
That's fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.